Hi everyone! Alright, so this is my very first YouTube video that I've ever posted, so bear with me. It's not going to be edited at all, it's just going to be bare. I'm going to stumble over my words, so like I said, bear with me. Anyways, okay, so this is just going to be basically a review on the NASM test that I just took. I took it yesterday and I passed. It was definitely the hardest test I've ever taken. For all those people who said it was the easiest, it's not the easiest. I had a hard time, but I passed. So, with that being said, I took the NASM. It took me about 2 hours to take it, and it's basically, I did it on the 6th edition book. This is the most updated book they have to offer, and they said the only difference between the 6th and the 5th is a couple extra pages, and they also said that the 6th explains things a little bit easier, so you should definitely look into it. But yeah, so it's about the 6th edition. I didn't see any YouTubers posting about this edition, so that's why I'm kind of here to do it for you guys that just got this book. So a couple of things I wanted to tell you guys about. I had my notes somewhere. Let me find them. Oh, I found them. Okay, so how I studied for the exam. I only studied for a month. I purchased my package last month and I took my test yesterday. I wrote everything down yesterday so I could have it fresh in my mind, and I just didn't have the opportunity to do it yesterday, so that's why I'm here today. But yeah, so how I studied for it, the Pocket Prep on your phone, I would definitely recommend getting that. It's something to just jog your memory while you're at work, while you're on the go. It's something good to always keep on you and refer back to when you have some extra time. Something I will say about that though, I didn't see any of the questions that were on the Pocket Prep on the main test, so don't expect to see any of those on there. But it is a really good study material. For everything I didn't know or I got wrong, it would give me like a page number in the book to go back and reference to, but unfortunately that one was linked to the 5th edition book, so I had to actually really fish through my book to find the answers and review it. But it was okay because it made me like look around a little bit more to get familiar with it. So Pocket Prep is good. It does cost some money, so you don't really have to get it if you don't want to, but it's just an idea. End of chapter quizzes. So the online portion, they have the modules for every single chapter. At the end of the chapter, they have those quizzes. They're only like 10 questions. They're super fast. I would definitely recommend doing those. A lot of those questions I seen on the end of the whole thing, end review, the end of the book review, like the 100 questions, and then the 120 test prep questions that they have also to offer. I've seen tons of those end of module questions on those, and I think I've seen a few also on the main test. So take them multiple times. Just like 2 times is all you really need. Don't get too crazy, don't waste your time, but definitely get familiar with them and answer the questions and understand why you missed them if you did. Like I said, the 100 question practice exam and the 120 question practice exam, they both helped me a lot. I seen a ton of those questions on the main exam, so definitely take those. They take quite a while. They took me like an hour and a half to 2 hours for each one, so they definitely take some time, but they're so good to have in the back of your mind, because when you see them on your actual NASM test, they'll jog your memory and you're gonna be like, oh, I totally seen this, and you'll know the answer. So definitely take those. I recommend them a lot. For me, the way that I learn is by watching and then doing. So at the end of every module, they had the lecture videos, and I watched those. I watched a lot of those. I watched every single one actually multiple times. They gave you really good examples, really good demonstrations. So I would definitely recommend those if you're like a visual learner like I am. I'm not a book learner. To tell you guys the truth, I didn't read the book front to back. I didn't have time for that. I had 1 month and that's all I had. So I didn't have time to read it. I didn't really want to read it. I'm a college student and we're kind of like, we learn shortcuts, you know? And so I definitely found my shortcuts. Let's see, and YouTube. I watched a lot of YouTube videos. I watched a ton of them, And one thing I did wish to see though was somebody who would give me kind of like a practice exam on the YouTube video so I could listen to it in the car while I was driving. So if that's something you guys are interested in, definitely let me know in the comments because I would love to do that. Something to just listen to maybe even in your headphones while you're like working out or walking around or driving, because it's just good to have something to like stimulate your brain and test yourself without having your book with you at all times. So let me know if you want me to do that. I can totally do that. Let's see, a couple of really good chapters that I would recommend if you wanted to really thoroughly read a couple of chapters. These ones I did thoroughly read through and through. Chapter 5, which is the human movement science, and then chapter 6, which is the assessment and like program design, training and program design. So those chapters are really good to review. I've seen a ton of questions on there of those. Okay, so then what was on the test? Things that I seen that were on the test. Like you'd hear on every other YouTube video, the overhead squat assessment. But also for me, I seen a lot of the single leg squat assessment. So definitely get familiar with both of those and be familiar with them front to back, because I really only was focusing on just getting familiar with them. But the test had asked me questions a little bit more detailed, like if in the overhead squat assessment, if Lucy's shoulders were falling forward, what muscles were overactive. I mean, that's basic, but then there was tons of questions that were saying like which ones were underactive as well, and they say which ones are shortened or which ones are lengthened, and then you get kind of like confused. So just be familiar with both of those front to back, inside and out, and you'll be good to go. I've seen a ton of questions about special populations on my exam. Lots of pregnancy lady questions, lots of elderly people, and children. I've seen tons of questions about all those special populations. I was really surprised. I didn't hear a lot of people say that they've seen a lot of those on there. So definitely get familiar with them. Exercises that they can and can't do, cardiorespiratory exercises that they can and can't do, things like that. Let's see, a couple other things. Static, dynamic, SMR, and active isolation stretches. All of those, I've seen at least 6 questions on my test of all of those. So definitely be familiar with them and in which level of the OPT model you're allowed to do certain stretching, which ones you shouldn't do and should do. And then also be familiar with some of the stretching techniques and also some of the actual exercise stretches that they do in each of those little domains. So because they ask about it, like what is a dynamic stretch, and it gives you options to choose from. So just definitely be familiar with some of the exercises. I only seen one question about the human anatomy. So my question was about the left and right atrium or ventricle kind of a thing. So I only seen one on there, so I wouldn't really stress too much about studying about that. I wouldn't know if other people seen more questions, but I only seen one, so I just tried my best on that because I didn't remember much of it. Definitely review the subjective and objective questions, like PARQ questions. There was tons of questions about those on there on mine, so just know the difference. What is a subjective question in relation to an objective question? And then I seen 2 questions about calories and macros. Not too many, so just be familiar with it. You don't need to study it all crazy. Don't waste too much time on that. The assessments, know your assessments like the YMCA, Rockport Walk Test, Push Test, all of those kinds of things. I've seen a lot of questions about those, tons of questions about those, at least 6 to 8 questions about the assessments. Distortion patterns, pronation, lower cross and upper cross syndrome. I've seen a lot of questions about those, and I actually didn't even study those until the day of, like before my test, so I wish I would have taken more time to study those, but I definitely recommend studying those if you can. They asked a lot of questions, at least 4, and they're only 3 like distortion patterns, so you should definitely just at least get familiar with them, understand what they are, and things to look for when somebody has something like that. So do with that. let's see, a couple of vocabulary questions that you should definitely know, because I've seen questions on the test. I've seen at least 4 questions on the test of these. Reciprocal inhibition, altered reciprocal inhibition, and synergistic dominance. Be familiar with those. I've seen at least 4 questions. Like I said, I didn't really study those, but I do remember seeing those on the test, because in the back of my mind, I was like, well, maybe I should study these, but I never did. So that's what I get. And then phases in the cardiorespiratory training, percentages and levels and stuff like that. So definitely be familiar with those. I've seen a lot of people say that they've seen that on there as well. So, and then last but not least, the OPT model. You should know that. It's at the beginning of the book. It's what the whole test is basically around. So definitely be familiar with the OPT model, all the different levels and phases and exercises involved and repetition range and rest and everything about it you need to know. There was at least 20 questions on my test about it. So yeah, that's all I have for you. Super short. That's what to expect on your test. It was difficult. For me, it was difficult. I only had 1 month to study though, that's why. So I was just jamming. If I had more time, it'd probably be easier, but it was hard. So expect it to be difficult, but it's okay. I mean, I passed, which is awesome. And I know you can pass too. So anyways, let me know if you guys want me to post that study guide kind of a thing. I'll get started on it if you guys want me to. Also, if you have any questions, post them down below. Yeah, anyways, I'll try to figure it out. Like I said, this is my first YouTube video, so I'm trying to get familiar. But anyways, all right, bye.